Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I have a video as part of the Newton's Nook May Flowers blog hop. On the blog hop today, if you follow my link to my blog, you can find out about how you could win one of two $10 gift certificates to the Newton Nook's Design store, and also you can pick up a free shipping code so you can order some of the favorites from Newton's Nook you may have had an eye on for a while. Every one of the design team members will be sharing a project featuring flowers from Newton's Nook Designs. I'm going to be using the Beautiful Blossoms stamp set today, although they also recently released Fanciful Florals, which I have a card video on as well. And so for today, I decided to do some stamping on vellum because that's not something I've done yet with the Newton's Nook flowers, and so I'm going to stamp them in Versamark ink on a piece of vellum here and then white heat emboss them. I have this white embossing powder from Ranger, and it's a detailed embossing powder. I have had kind of mixed results on it. I'm not sure if there's something up with the way that I'm using it or if it's a little bit more sticky than I had anticipated, but I'm getting the not quite as crisp of an impression as I've gotten, and so I'm kind of wondering if maybe there is a better white embossing powder out there. I've heard some really good things about the Hero Arts embossing powder as well, but it does work. You just need to be careful, make sure that you don't have any static, and so I did use my anti-static tool there, and it's helping, and just make sure that you're pretty firm when you shake off the excess embossing powder. My white embossing powder is not yet in a large container like my clear embossing powder, in part because I'm not entirely sure that it's the one for me yet, and I want to experiment with some other white embossing powders before I commit to a large amount and putting it in a big container like that. So instead, I'm just sprinkling the embossing powder on top of the vellum, then dumping that onto a piece of white copy paper, funneling the embossing powder from the white copy paper back into the little jar, and that works just as well, but it is a little bit more time consuming, and for ones that you use a lot, I recommend my other method of just putting it like in a plastic sandwich container or something like that. So as I do the heat embossing, you can see there that the white embossing on some of the flowers, particularly that one there at the bottom, there was a lot of extra embossing powder that I wasn't able to tap off easily, and I'm thinking that might be in part because of the vellum and it being a little bit more static. I made sure that I heated my embossing gun up for at least 30 seconds before I applied it to the paper because I wanted to make sure that it didn't warp the vellum too much. Now that I have the white embossing on the vellum, I actually wanted to add some color, and so you could do this with colored vellum, but what's nice is that your Copic markers or any alcohol markers or alcohol inks from Ranger will color vellum. However, in my experience experimenting on this card, I did not feel like I could blend with the Copic markers on the vellum. I tried to use like a darker color in the center and then blend it out, and I guess because it sits a little bit more on top of the paper, the inks don't blend as well because I think some of the blending comes in the paper itself, and so I think it's better to probably just add the one color. You see I tried to add two colors here, but I don't even see that result in the end. So I would just color with one color if I was doing this card over again. And I used a light pink and a light purple just to add a touch of color and interest to these flowers. And I'm coloring on the back side. I'm not coloring directly over the embossing powder because that would color the embossing powder itself. And that's not what I'm interested in doing. I just want to give a slight color here. And I'm going to fussy cut out all of the flowers, but I'm going to leave a border for two different reasons. One, because it's a little bit trickier to cut right up on the edge of embossing, because sometimes you can kind of crack the embossing in that instance, but also because I wanted to make sure that you could really see the color of the vellum that I used. I'd spent quite a bit of time on trying to blend out those Copic colors, and it didn't even work. So I wanted to make sure that that was something that was noticeable, and so when I colored in the flowers with the Copic markers, I made sure to scribble outside of the lines of the flower. So now I'm moving on to the sentiment, and I'm using Simply Sentimental from Nook Designs. In my opinion, this is one of those excellent sentiment sets where you really get a great value because it has those awesome huge scripty parts of the sentiments, but then all these other little tiny sentiments that complement those. So you could just use the thanks here and it would be awesome, but then there are so many other combinations you can add with it. Thanks for being there, thanks a million, and then there's the happy, I believe it's a congrats sentiment. There's four different large scripties, and then so many other smaller sentiments that you can add in combination. And I'm going to be doing white embossing in this instance as well. And I did get better results than on Vellum. So like I said, with the white embossing pattern, maybe it's just the different materials that I'm having less success with. But if you have any suggestions for a great white embossing pattern, I'd love to hear it because I think I want to try out a few more. And I'm doing this on a piece of craft cardstock that is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm sorry, that would be the card base size. So my craft panel here is 4 by 5 1/4. And I was thinking about rounding the corners of the card base and the craft cardstock, but in the end decide just to round the corners of the craft cardstock. You'll see me do it to the card base too, but I'm known to actually keep it that way. I also experienced some warping, and I think that's because my craft cardstock is a little bit thin here. So the thicker the cardstock, the less you'll experience warping for sure. And as mentioned before, getting your heat gun hot for about 30 seconds beforehand does really work to lessen the warping in these instances. And once I had that white heat embossing down, it was time to arrange the flowers. And I wasn't sure the best way to attach these because being vellum, you can usually see adhesive through them. But there's also a lot of detail on the flowers, and so I think that the adhesive would be less noticeable in this instance than others. Like if you were just doing a strip of vellum, you'd clearly see the adhesive, but the adhesive is a little bit hidden by just the detail of the flowers. If you were really against seeing the adhesive at all, my suggestion would be to attach these with brads or cover the center with buttons. So you could put the adhesive down in the center, place a button on top of it, or any other little embellishment like that that would cover it up. In the end, I wind up adding sequins around them, and maybe that's another thing that you could put in the center depending on what look you want to go for. But like I said, because the detail of the quilling look on these flowers covers the adhesive, kind of hides it, camouflages it a little bit, I was fine with using the multi-medium matte from Ranger. I really enjoy the multi-medium matte because it does dry really clear but also flat, so you're not going to see any shininess through the vellum, and it sticks to a lot of different surfaces. Like it glued on this vellum really, really securely. And I'm going to use the same multimedia matte from Ranger to glue on these sequins. These sequins are the girly pink color from My Style Stamps. My Style Stamps offers a wide range of sequins for just $1 a bag. And while you will, it's possible to get 1 or 2 broken sequins in the bag, the price is excellent and the range of colors is really fun. I like sequins that have a lot of shine and shimmer to them because I don't use glitter on my cards on most cards because of Operation Right Home. So to get that sparkle from something else can be really fun. And so these do really catch the light and add a lot of shimmer without, you can kind of just see it there, that one in the center really shone because it caught the light there. And so I really enjoy that about these. And I'm just gluing them around randomly to fill in some of the spaces and gaps between the flowers. I had thought about maybe adding an extra flower, but then I would have had to go all the way back through the embossing and coloring and fussy cutting process. So I just kind of let the sequins fill all of that in. And so that's it for my card today. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafty videos, you can subscribe to my channel. Please check out the link below to join us on the blog hop. leave some comments, enter for a chance to win a $10 gift certificate to the Newton's Nook Designs store, but also take advantage of that free shipping code and pick up some of your favorite stamps that you've seen me or some of the other designers use. Thanks for watching. Bye.